Okay, folks, good morning, afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this. Haven't been doing anything in a while because, well, we've been really busy. And not just busy with cars, but busy with life. But we did go to SEMA. We took the Buick. It was in the Optima Invitational. And, of course, now it's in pieces. And we'll get to that in a second. I know a lot of people want more probe stuff. There, you got some probe stuff. We're still waiting on parts. Pistons are still probably 2 months out. Once those show up, then we can finish machining that engine and start working on that. So you probably won't see anything on that till maybe January, honestly. But SEMA, I was going to do a video at SEMA, but I'm still not okay with standing around in public talking to a camera like this. It looks dorky from the outside. So I didn't do a SEMA video, sorry. There's lots of videos on the page, on the YouTube channel, from inside the car, which go watch those. Those are neat. We have a blog entry, wrote it up. That's cool. Go look at that. The car on Sunday, the last day of the event, was acting weird. It sounded like it was knocking, losing power, couldn't build boost, and I had figured it was a blown exhaust gasket. And actually, it ended up that was part of the problem. That's my chest. We've got this gasket, and that's, I don't know if it'll focus on that, but this sucker failed right behind number 6. Right, the valve cover gaskets leaked. This thing got soaked with oil, and it gave up. So we pulled the manifold off to get that gasket out, and then when I pulled all the header wrap off, we found some pretty bad cracking. So COVID things being what they are, you know, this exhaust, they don't make this exhaust anymore. People make an exhaust like it, but not this one. So I can't buy like this piece and replace it. So I have to buy the entire thing, which is both headers, cross under tube, and maybe even the downpipe. So I need to get this car back on the road. I want it drivable. We've also got this, if you can see, this little support rod is also broken. So I mean, you can see this thing gets hot and this stuff moves around. Look how much that's shifted. So what we have to do is we're gonna have to repair this. You know, and of course this thing's made out of, I think, 304 stainless. And so what we have here is flux core stainless steel wire. And what this is, it's welding wire that doesn't need the Trimix shielding gas, which, because today's a Sunday, I can't get Trimix shielding gas right now. So we're gonna flux core this. So what we've got to do is got to get the die grinder, and we've got to really kind of grind into this crack, and then we will fill it with weld, and then we'll flip it over. We've got to do the same thing. We've got that, and there's a crack there. So put that out so you can see that one. So that's what we're going to do today, is see if we can fix this header good enough to go back on the car, and not have to spend $1,000 and wait 2 months. So let's get moving. Okay, so we've got this welded up, and for those of you that are better welders than me, I know what you're about to see is gross, but here it is. So this is using flux core wire, pretty much dealing with stainless here. I'm gonna have to hit it again because it's shrinking. It's already cracked there, which doesn't bode well for this repair. But this entire thing is just supposed to be good enough, so we may clean this up. I'm having to pretty much max this machine out at 110 volts to get this to work. So, you know, probably would be working much more smoothly on 220, but I don't have 220 in my garage, so we're gonna clean that bit up there and close that crack up. That actually came out pretty good. So let me get this last little bit done. We'll let it cool off, then we'll clean this up again. And I'm going to remove that. That's the narrowband oxygen sensor, and the computer doesn't use it on this car, so I'm going to replace that and put a plug in. I've got one laying around here somewhere. And then we will get to wrapping it, and then the next step will be to put it back on the car. Okay, so we've got a lot done today. If you've ever seen the business end of one of these engine bays, it is ridiculously tight over here. But we have the repaired headers in place, the downpipes in place. We need to get the turbocharger back on. We're waiting on wastegate springs to show up, so this will be an edit cut, but I'm finishing for the day because I'm tired and starting to make mistakes, and that's never good. But good progress. So be back in like 2 seconds, but it'll be like tomorrow to you, or 2 seconds to you. It'll be tomorrow today, or today tomorrow, tomorrow today. I'm going to take a break for the night, but it'll only be like 2 seconds for you. So, the turbocharger is back on, and, you know, you all keep watching this, and you probably look at this and have no idea what half the stuff is in here. Or some of you do know, but, you know, this is a quick tour of a Buick Grand National's engine bay. At least one on a heavy modified Grand National like this one. The layout is the same as stock, right? So the turbo's in the stock location. That's about it. The alternator's been replaced because this car's 30 years old. The power steering reservoir has been replaced because there's the stock one's a cheap plastic one and it fails. Right next to it you'll see two sensors. That's for fuel and oil pressure. Fuel's disconnected right now because the sensor failed and I need to replace it. Moving over, that black canister right there is the fuel pressure regulator, and it's referenced off the manifold pressure. The turbocharger, this is a PTE 5858 CAE ball bearing, and it's a pretty rowdy little unit. This J-hook is a stock piece. It doesn't quite line up. I've only got one bolt in it, but I'm hoping this will hold the turbo well enough that manifold doesn't crack again. A normal Grand National would have an internal wastegate. You know, we'd be using the same hole, but there's actually an actuator that would be down there that would move a flap inside the downpipe. I've gone to an external gate. You get a little bit better control. This has just been respringed for 17 psi. So we had a 10-pound spring in there, and we were having trouble building boost. And so we've got the 17-pound springs in there now. The fasteners for all this here, and also the studs that hold the turbo onto the flange down there, which you can't see because it's too exposed. Those are actually my fancy Inconel bolts, and I was having trouble with the stainless steel type bolts and mild steel bolts. Once they get hot, they stretch and they release the torque, and then the gasket blows. So these are actually Inconel, which is a high nickel alloy. They make jet engine parts out of it. You have to use Inconel to bolt together the pressure vessel on your nuclear reactor. And the reason you need to do that is those reactors are subject to radiation and hydrogen exposure. And steel suffers from something called hydrogen embrittlement, which means if it absorbs too much hydrogen, the steel will actually just break. It turns into flakes and just falls apart. So if you're building a nuclear reactor, you got to use these. Here's why military grade stuff is so expensive, right? These are Inconel. Again, each one of these bolts costs almost $20 per bolt. And that's for dinky little bolts like this. Imagine how the big ones used in an airplane or a nuclear reactor, how much that would cost. And now you know why stuff like that is so flippin' expensive. Moving around, there's the downpipe. There's the header we just repaired. All those hoses replace analogs for stock stuff. We've got our own kind of homegrown PCV system here to keep the crankcase from getting pressurized. And this line here is a manifold pressure line that goes to the computer, so it kind of snakes around. And I wrapped it in heat shrink because this line cannot fail. If it does, the ECM loses the reference signal from the engine, and it doesn't know how much air is in it, and then everything goes to hell. Aftermarket stock location intercooler, giant fans. These are the lines for the wastegate thingy. We'll get those back on in a little bit. But that's where we're at as of the next day. Well, it's been a few days, and I can report that the fixing the exhaust, big help. The noise is gone, the turbo spools, the air fuel readings are correct now because there's not a giant hole in the exhaust ahead of the oxygen sensor. But it still didn't run right. We were still getting popping on a little test drive around the neighborhood, and when I got back to the house, we had bubbles in the return, the overflow bottle, and that was not good. So went ahead and pulled out the compression checker, and probably read this. We're low on number 6, so I just surmised that we detonated it in Vegas and we damaged the head gasket on the passenger side. So we need to get this head off and replace inspect it, and hopefully it'll just be the gasket. The difficult part, this engine's got head studs, not head bolts. And if you notice how tight that is, this head cannot come off the car with the engine in. So we have cleared out the probe, cleaned off the workbench. I'm going to straighten out that corner. That's all a disaster. But we now have room to unfold the engine crane, and this motor's coming out. That kind of sucks. The probe, as you can see, is not in here right now. It is actually right there. My daughter and I, we pushed it out of the garage and pushed it into the yard. So big help for her. You might see some footage of that right now. And I just need to get the hood off, and probably the next time you see this, we will have the engine out of the car and we will be tearing the heads off and seeing just how bad it is. Fingers crossed it's just the gasket and we can throw it back together and put it back in the car. But that's it for this video. I'm going to tie this one off here. It's kind of a womp womp, but other than the popping under boost, the engine still runs fine. So this is a pretty minor leak. I don't think the damage is major. There's nothing indicating we've got anything worse than just a damaged head gasket on that side. So fingers crossed, and I'll see you next time.